Hello and welcome to the Invictus Racing League. And tonight you join us after the week break, and we join us for the F3 Season 10 Round 7. Tonight, as you can see, we're at the Hungarian ring just outside Budapest, and of course it is Round 7 after the week break. And tonight, and as always, I'm joined with Charlie. Charlie, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's good to be here and get our teeth back into some racing after a short break.
Of course, I'm sure all these guys are going to be absolutely delighted that they'll be back underway, and I'm sure they'll be very eager to at least know the weather of the circuit coming up, or at least for qualifying and the race. I'm sure they'll get a forecast very soon, and but it can be different after a week break. But two people who really stood out from the first six races, Charlie, and maybe the only two who have really sort of got consistency at high level from the first half of the season is Luke Bailey and Craig. Those two are sort of got a bit of a buffer between them at the moment.
Yeah, like you say, they are the only two that really look to be in this title fight as we go into the second half of the season. And Craig, being the only one who's scored points in every race this season, looks like he's maybe just got the edge over Luke at the moment. But there's a long way to go, so we'll see how it pans out over the course of the season.
Absolutely, and of course the Hungarian can be notorious for being a pretty tricky track in terms of overtaking. It's certainly one of the probably tougher places that we come to. There's two DRS zones. The best overtaking opportunity for these guys in the race will be turn one on the first lap, I'm sure, but then after the first opening laps you will be allowed to use DRS down at home straight into turn one, try and be late on the brakes to get that move done. And of course there is a DRS zone out of turn one into turn two, so you can have another chance at the bite of the cherry if you can't quite get it done there. And of course equally, if you're feeling particularly bold coming out turn three up the hill into turn four, if you are bold you can sort of try and maybe scare a driver into a move there. And of course I think the first man out is one of the Ferraris, it looks like, or it might have been Simon Palmer in fact, and the two Haas making their way out as well. But Simon Palmer got himself on the podium for the first time since round one in Brazil, and he sits himself now third in the championship. But he's got a bit of work to do, hasn't he, if he wants to keep up with his teammate?
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. I believe he's 18 points behind his teammate, and that's a big deficit when these guys are often finishing at the top end. So yeah, he's got a lot of work to do to get back into this fight.
Yes, but if there's one place where he's got on his teammates so far this season, Simon, it's maybe on qualifying. He's had a very good qualifying record, but he has got to make sure he does turn those good qualifyings into good results. And he knows if he wants to stay in this title hunt, he knows he's got to pick up some really good points today, because Craig and Luke just getting that little bit of a firmer grip on the title, and it seems to be a little bit of a two-horse race. But of course there's plenty of racing yet to come, and a lot of drivers, as you can see there, all going for the hard tyres. We've got Synchronusely on the medium tyres. Craig still sat in the pits, but it could be it is quite a tough track on tyres, and we expect a lot of people to be going with the harder rubber, Charlie. But of course we can't rule out safety cars as well.
Yeah, there's a massive chance of having a safety car around here. Being such a tight and twisty circuit, you often get people trying moves that may not be the best thing to do, and you can find people ending up in the wall. And it's also easy to make a mistake around here. You can overheat the tyres quite easily and end up finding yourself facing the wrong way. So yeah, there is a chance of safety cars, so people are going to have to play the strategy right tonight, and hope the safety cars go their way.
And now running aboard the Haas of tennis, and of course he's had a bit of an up and down. He's shown some really good pace throughout the season. Hasn't quite had it all his own way. He's had some pretty decent qualifying. Of course his teammate Wojtek's had perhaps a little bit more of the better luck, should we say, but he's shown himself to have a little bit about him. And of course this last sector now, this 90-degree right in turn 12, and then this long quite similar corners, the ever long lasting left turn of turn 13, as you see Simon Palmer setting down the initial 18.6, and this long right all the way into the last corner. So it can be hard. You've got to be very patient on the throttle for these two corners, and Tennis comes across the line at 18.9, which does put him just 3 tenths off Simon Palmer, and just a tenth or two off behind his teammate. So Stephen now does a 20.10. And interestingly, Craig's gone out on the soft tyres, so our championship leader being certainly the boldest of the lot so far, and he's instantly gone out on the softest tyres.
Yeah, that's a bit of a strange one. Maybe he's just using the soft to get his banker laps in, and he's going to back out at the end. But yeah, I can't imagine it's the best idea to be starting on that tyre, and if he is, it's a very bold move.
Certainly, but see, if he just is just going for a banker, he absolutely flies it over the curbs, and now, of course, in this tricky section through the S's, you can find a lot of time. I'm sure the extra grip of these soft tyres will be finding him a lot of time compared to these other drivers. Maybe he is just trying to hope for maybe an early safety car or something to try and have him. He's gone purple in that middle sector, as you expect him to do, on those softer rubber. His teammate as well as on the medium tyres, and of course you only get one set of medium tyres, so you have got to really make it count, as Brennon's now goes an 18.5, and of course Brennon's one of the other more consistent drivers, as Craig does pull into the pits, so it was perhaps just a little sighter, maybe even a dummy to some of his championship rivals. But we'll talk about Brennon's quickly, Charlie, and there's someone who has just gone provisional pole by a 10th quicker than Simon Palmer. He was very unlucky in Brazil. I think it was the DNF on the last lap, I believe, but he has really shown himself to be a real contender in races and challenging for victories.
Yeah, he's just had the one DNF this season, and all of his other races he's picked up a few points here and there. So, and he's looked strong in some races as well. He's looked like he's going to move forward every time he has a race. So, not so strong in qualifying. It's something he needs to improve on, but I've been impressed from some of his performances in the races.
And another driver who's perhaps impressed a bit more of late, St. Knudsley, had a pretty tough start to the season, but he's slowly but surely, after good results in Germany and Brazil, he's sort of getting himself back up there into the mix, and he set himself in the 17.9, so just the first driver into the 1 minute 17s. Of course, he's on those medium tyres, the first driver to set a time on the medium tyres, so you would expect him to go a little bit quicker, but he's got a 6/10 of a second margin, which is a fair margin. I think he can go around, if you really push it, about 8/10 to a second quicker. See Dracio, the man who set himself pole position in Brazil, he'd be feeling pretty confident, I imagine, for qualifying around here, but something I've just seen him do, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of tonight, invalidating around turn 4.
Yeah, turn 4 is really difficult to not invalidate your lap, and I'm sure many drivers are going to find out. It's crucial that you push the boundaries of every corner around the circuit on your qualifying lap, because you can lose so much time if you don't, but equally you've got to keep it within the boundaries and not invalidate.
And to see Simon Palmer there improving on his time, but just about a 10th of a second, and Stephen as well improving his time just a little bit and pumps him up into P9. And Stephen was both Williams. I felt after Brazil they feel like they should have had a lot more. Both of them had a pretty good pace. Stephen did a very nice strategy to get himself in the mix. A bit of contact at the top of the hill, turn 6, sent him in the barriers, and Gareth, after fighting for the lead, sent himself in the barriers at the exit of turn 6 after a fight with Simon Palmer for the lead. And so both Williams will be hoping for a little bit of redemption tonight, and I'm sure they'll be doing their best for it. And as Jeffrey come across the line, 23.0, I'm sure he can do a lot better than that. Of course, he's had a bit of a mixed bag, Jeffrey, first six rounds, Charlie. He's started the season very well. He's definitely shown himself to be one of the quicker drivers on the grid, but it has begun to unravel for him of late.
Yeah, it was only really Spain where he picked up the victory that he really showed what the potential of his pace could produce in the race. So he does need to start picking up some better results if he's going to climb up the order in the championship. I'm sure the battle for P3 is still on for him. I can't really see him challenging for first in the championship, but yeah, he's been very quick. He just needs to start adding some results now, otherwise, pace counts for nothing.
Absolutely, and just running the boundaries on that middle sector there, the track limits can be a little bit inconsistent around here, and of course you want to make the most of every single thing that could possibly work in your favours. Now comes around the long turn 13, got to be patient on the throttle, picks up the throttle nicely, and now of course the long right hander, again you're looking for the exit to get the absolute top speed onto the home straight, see if this is a lot better. It looks certainly like it will be, and it goes into P2, so it goes 2/10 faster than the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, it's a very good lap by Jeffrey. He's laid down a marker to all his nearest rivals there that he has got the pace tonight, and he's going to push them hard. And
Luke Bailey's just about to come across the line, but he's invalidated his lap. He's currently sat in P5, just a couple of tenths off his teammate, and he's got 4 tenths to make up from Jeffrey. And see a lot of drivers in the pits right now. Surely all of that sort of transformation phase of the qualifying session, of course. So you don't get too many sets of tyres. If you want to qualify on the mediums or the hards, you only get one set of hards and one set of medium, so they have got to you have got to be a little bit careful with that, and of course you really got to make the absolute most of each tyre compound. And just see how Stephen's done 4 laps on his tyres, so I'm sure he's hoping he's going to improve on the medium tyres. Comes around this last corner now. I think this is only just maybe a cool down lap. He's well down on his personal best. But the two Ferraris, Charlie, we've seen them start at the back quite a lot of late, but in Brazil was a real turnaround of fortune for them. Colin in particular showed some real pace, was unlucky in the end. The safety car sort of dashed his chance of the victory. Have we got someone in the wall? Was that Gareth?
Yeah, Gareth just gone round at the chicane at the top of the track. He's just clambered over those big curves and the rear of the car's gone. He's found himself in the wall. He needs to get out of there pretty quickly so the game doesn't disqualify him, but I'm sure he needs to head back to the pits for a new wing now, so not an ideal start for Gareth.
No, and he does well aware of all the cars around him. Doesn't want to have an unsafe rejoin. I'm sure the cars who've gone past him at least appreciate that, as even if I'm sure a little bit of an eyesore for him, but seems like Colin's gone through unscathed. It seems like he's setting a purple middle sector, so that yellow flag hasn't slowed him down at all. Maybe a little bit snaky out of the exit turn 12 and coming around turn 13 now. And is he going to stick with the lap? And he is. So he's going to come around the last corner, turn 14. He's going to look for that late apex. And someone else gone round?
Yeah, Craig's round now at turn 5. He's just hit that horrible curb on the inside and it's just flipped his car around. He couldn't do anything about it, and he just managed to stay out of everyone's way, luckily as well. So Craig back underway out there on the hard tyre at the moment.
And now JSP's gone out there on a brand new set of medium tyres. You can see now on your left hand side, a lot of cars now with just 7 minutes and 30 seconds left in session, they're all beginning to switch over to that medium tyre. It's probably the tyre of choice to qualify on, because they can go quite durable on them. They can go from anywhere really to about 11 to probably about 15-16 laps if you're kind to them. So this is a very, very good race tyre for a lot of these guys, but it's a soft tyre, Charlie. I think if you want to get yourself in the mix, it is an opportunity, but it doesn't seem like anyone's particularly really keen to take that option at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is a great idea. Like you say, to get yourself track position, initially it will work, obviously, as it's a quicker tyre, but I've tried it myself around here, and after about 2 laps, most of the 3 tyres out of the 4 tend to overheat, and you end up with no grip, so there's no real added benefit. Maybe at the end of the race, if it's a safety car, we'll see some guys on it, but I imagine we'll see most people on the medium or the hard tonight. And
JSP comes across the line, and I think just backed out of that lap pretty early on, and he does 21 or something, so he doesn't improve on that lap. But so he's under a little bit of pressure now to improve this one. And someone who else is under pressure is certainly Craig. His teammate's currently sat on provisional pole at the moment, and he's certainly down to 13th for 34.9, so that shows he's got plenty of time to improve, and of course he'll want to get a banker done on his tyres as soon as he can. I'm sure he'll be wanting to qualify on those medium tyres. Still 4 drivers yet to set a competitive time yet. That is Captain Stiff in the Williams. You've got Still as well, who was very unlucky. I think got held up in all the mix of the lap 1 drama in Brazil. Giorgio, of course, was our pole sitter in Brazil. He's yet to do a lap, and so Spud in the Ferrari in the pit lane at the moment, still yet to complete a lap. But let's see what this lap brings for Craig and Renault. I'm sure he wants will just want a lap on the board to just no, he's going to go into the pit. So maybe he's just feeling the time is just coming down a little bit too much for him, and he just wants to make sure he's got plenty of time for that medium run. And I think we'll see quite a few of those drivers do it. We'll see Simon Palmer now coming across the line, but he's invalidated as well. And as we were saying, Charlie, invalidations can be so crucial around here.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a massive problem for some guys tonight. Simon Palmer now going for a second lap, I believe, on these medium compound tyres, so they're going to be that little bit extra warm, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue in the race. Looking like he's going for his medium run early, so maybe he's just banking on, just banking himself some time, and if he invalidates again, he can pop into the pits and refuel, or maybe he's going to take a gamble tonight and do something else at the end of this quali session.
It'll be certainly interesting to see as now comes over that big chicane, absolutely riding the curves out of turns 6 and 7. Now, of course, the S's of 8 and 9 flicking it left and then right. Want to try and open up this corner because this turn 10 is absolutely flat as Wojtek goes provisional passes now 4 tenths quicker than Synchronous. And you say Wojtek's been definitely one of the quicker drivers on the grid in the first 6 rounds. Again, a little bit up and down, hasn't quite the consistency of the top 2 in the championship, but he's certainly had a good account of himself, and that's a very good lap there, 4 tenths faster. So to see what Simon Palmer could do, it'll give us another reference point to see how good that lap is by the Haas driver. Of course, getting the late apex, trying to get the absolute maximum acceleration out of the last corner, opens the DRS, and he's going to go over only P3. So he has been a bit of a qualifying master, but I'm sure he'd be a bit surprised to see that he's about 4 tenths off the pace at the moment.
Yeah, it was a pretty scruffy lap from Simon. He didn't look like he was taking the optimal line into some corners and missed a few apexes here and there. So I'm sure he'll want to come into the pits and have a little think about where he can find some time and go back out there. But yeah, Wojtek, good lap. It's looking like that's going to be pretty competitive time tonight. So we'll see where everyone else can go in relation to that.
And still now he's setting his first time on the medium tyres, just crossed that second sector, now coming into the last sector of turns 12, 13 and 14 and want to get the absolute maximum out of his Mercedes car, the number 43, and of course he is again one of those drivers who has shown very good pace. Again, he was very unlucky in Brazil along with quite a lot of drivers around him in the championship, so at least he didn't lose out too many points, lost out points on the top two, but puts himself into 8th, which I'm sure he'd be hoping with a little bit more. It'd be interesting to see, does he maybe have a cool down lap, does he go for another lap? We've seen Synchronouzi's done 4 laps on his medium tyres, so he's certainly not worried at all by the degradation. He wants to he feels like he surely can improve. And see Luke Bailey's about to cross the line. It looks like he's miles off, so maybe just having a cool down lap before he goes again. So I've got one of the Ferraris, might be it's a Spud possibly about to set a lap time, and he does. He goes P13 over 19.0. But a little bit of pressure on Craig now, Charlie, because he's on his out lap on those medium tyres. Without setting a reasonable banker, he's now got to set his best time on those medium tyres with pretty little experience in this session. As Synchronouzi on 5 lap old mediums, that's a fabulous time at 1 minute 17.5. So, I mean, he set a fabulous lap. He might get himself with pole. Well, he's got provisional pole, maybe even pole, but those tyres are going to be very worn at the start.
Yeah, and that does sort of say to us as well that there's more time to come from the guys out there. If he's able to do that on 4 or 5 lap old mediums, I'm sure there's guys out there who are able to beat that, as we see Jeffrey now on a 17.3, 2 tenths ahead of Synchronously. So I'm sure the times are going to start falling now a bit as these guys do their final runs.
Yeah, fabulous lap left, and Jeffrey's got himself a 2/10 of a cushion buffer to the second place man, as now Craig got a little bit of traffic to contend with. It's quite a small circuit, only 2.7 mile long track, so it is one of the shorter circuits that we come to race on, and of course shorter the track is, the more traffic you're likely going to have to deal with in your qualifying runs. As Tox has gone up into P5, and Teo Rosso, he came P2 last night in a realistic performance, so he's clearly got a little bit of confidence around his circuit. I'm sure he'll be pleased with his lap. Still got to find a little bit of time if he wants to go further forward. As Nitro Gas goes P4, and after a difficult race for Red Bull, I'm sure that'll do him the world of good. He can't have his teammate Malc with him sadly tonight, so he is carrying the burden of the Red Bull team for this evening, and looks like he's going to have more traffic for the championship leader, as he's got McLaren ahead of him with F1 Richard in the second sector, and Williams as well, so he's hoping to either get a move on or get out of his way very, very quickly. And it comes across the middle sector. It's not purple, so he might be a little bit further down than pole position, maybe off his teammate, but we'll have to see. It's getting, the McLaren's getting very, very close to him as they come around 13. And now around 13, the championship leader is saying he's under a lot of pressure, hasn't got a banker time on the hard tyres, so he's got 40 seconds left, so he has got time to do another lap straight after if he doesn't feel like it. And but he goes P6, which is I suppose a respectable time considering he didn't really have an initial delta to go off.
Yeah, that's it for Craig. He's backed out of that. He has not got enough ERS to do another lap, and that's his qualifying done. So he's looking like he's going to be susceptible from more guys behind. Yeah, so not ideal for Craig, but I'm sure his race pace will be a little bit better.
And Cryptox there retiring from the session, and Nitro Gas equally pulling into the pits, so that's his session over with. We'll have a look, see if Jeffrey's going any quicker. He's a tenth of a second down in that first sector, it says. So and the man's in second place. Synchronouzi's finished, Wojtek, Nitro Gas, and Luke Bailey as well. So Luke Bailey looking like he will be starting ahead of his championship rival Craig, unless Craig can go any quicker. It looks like he's gone slow in that first sector, so potentially not. And Jeffrey's got a purple middle sector. He's still got to find a little bit of time, but he's going for a real second push lap. He's not resting on his laurs. He's got a 2/10 of a second margin, but he wants to make sure, absolute sure, that he's got the pole position. But he must have been down on his delta because he now comes into the pits. Got a few cars coming around the last corner. I think one of them is Gareth, was just coming up to it. and I think Tinnis goes there into P8, which is then beaten by Stephen F1. Richard gets himself into P7 just behind his teammate. Walker Williams with Gareth do, and it goes P1 by half a tenth. And Gareth has absolutely found this qualifying form out of nowhere, because he's been struggling, and like Craig, I don't think he had a banker to go off. He's pulled an absolute rabbit out of the hat to find pole position with just seconds to go. What a lap!
Yeah, great lap by Gareth. We didn't see that one coming again, but yeah, with the pressure on, he's delivered. So fair play to him. It's a great lap, and now he's in the prime position going into the race.
Wow, what a turnaround it has been for Gareth in qualifying, having struggled quite a lot in the opening few rounds. He had a very good qualifying, I believe, in Germany. I think Spain. I think he started about P4. He's pretty near the front in Germany. P2 in Brazil, took the lead into turn 1 in Brazil, let's not forget, and now he's got the pole position to himself, and on a track that's so hard to overtake. Turn 1, if he can find himself leading out turn 1, he's got himself really in the cushy seat, hasn't he? Because he was saying, because it is so hard to overtake, man. It's just a clean exit out that last corner. It's going to be quite hard for him to lose that position, but of course there's plenty of racing to go yet. But there we are then, he is your pole sitter with a 17.2, half a tenth behind was Jeffrey, and Jeffrey was maybe felt like he could have done that second push lap, but he thought better of it. And Synchronously P3, a fabulous qualifying from the Renault driver there. Wojtek in P4 on the Haas, well done for him. Nitrogas, a really good result for Red Bull. Luke Bailey is 6th. Brennons and F1 Richard separate the two championship rivals. O'Stephen is 10th. Tinnis the second Haas in 11th. Cryptox in P12. Simon Palmer down 13th there, which is a little bit of a shock for him, I'm sure. As you're saying, what a great qualifying performance he's had. But that's a really good result there for Gareth. An interesting Dragio, our last race pole sitter, didn't manage to get a time in, so I think that it could be down to new tyres, but it could also be, I saw him invalidate a couple of times. It could have been perhaps potentially a victim of the track extensions around this circuit, and I think that's something we're going to see a lot of tonight.
Yeah, I think he was, like you say, a victim of track extension penalty, so he's going to have his work cut out from the back tonight. It's going to be very hard to cut through the field around here, as you say, limited opportunities with overtaking. So, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight at the top between Gareth and Jeffrey. They're very close on pace, and I'm sure Jeffrey will be pushing hard to take his second win of the season.
Absolutely, and of course these guys just waiting now, just trying to get their last minute preparations done just before they start the formation lap, and just before they do, we just go over some of the stuff as we always do. And of course, if you're enjoying and like what you're seeing, give us a big thumbs up, leave a comment below, whatever, subscribe if you haven't already. We've got plenty of racing to come for you over the next 6 weeks really, until the end of the season. Of course, we've got the F1 League every Monday night, that's 8 PM with Gareth and Sab. Realistic Performance, that's Tuesday nights, 8 PM, that's Malc and Tim. And F2 League is on the same time as us every Wednesday, 8 PM. And of course the Xbox League, of course, in its debut season, that is Sunday nights, 9:30 on Twitch. You can find that at twitch.tv at Invictus Racing League. And hit us up on the socials. Got Instagram at Invictus Racing League, or Twitter at Invictus RL. Just finished a giveaway, so of course I'm sure we'll be holding more of them in the future. So to make sure we don't miss out on potentially more giveaways in the future, make sure you follow us on the socials. You can find us on Facebook as well, and of course our website as well. Online we can find Hall of Fame, used photo albums, all you like, interviews with drivers, and we're now all ready to get the formation lap underway for these guys. And I'm sure Gareth, he felt like he had really good pace in Brazil. He did well to recover. I think it was right at the back of the grid, recovered to P7. But I'm sure after Brazil, he'd feel like that was a race win that should have had his name and hands on. You really do have to feel this could be a redemption day for him.
Yeah, I think he definitely had the pace to challenge for the win in Brazil. Unfortunately, that mistake cost him a lot of points. So yeah, his pace has been, rapidly improving from the start of the season on his new wheel. So obviously he's just getting better and better as this season goes on. I'm sure he'll be challenging not only for the win today, but in many races to come at the end of the season.
I'm sure he will be, and of course, as we're saying, Simon Palmer down there 13th, someone who's been so strong in qualifying. It'd be quite a shock to him, but was saying qualifying hasn't been his weak point. It has been the races, and of course he did have the return to the podium in Brazil, and he knows if he gets a good start and just a clean opening few laps, I'm sure he can be back up there. Good return from qualifying for the two McLarens. We say quite often it's not usually their strong point. They're usually much better in the race, the two McLarens, but I'm sure they'd be pretty happy sitting 7th and 8th, both of them ahead of Craig, particularly F1 Richard, who hasn't had it all his own way. Of course he picked up that win in Abu Dhabi, and Brenos didn't have it all in his own way in Brazil. He looked like he was on for a decent roll of points after looking like he's really got his act together, and really he's always been quite consistent, but the last few runs in particular his pace just seemed to find that another level, but picked up that DNF on just the last few laps there in Brazil, and I'm sure he'll be looking for a little bit of redemption. Synchronizely and Wojtek, they know that 3rd and 4th is a very good position for them. Synchronizely as well, he wants to try and pick up, I'm sure, good points for his teammate as well, because in the constructors Renault are slipping a little bit behind Alpha have had it a little bit more their own way, a little bit more consistency between the two drivers, and of course Simon is just a little bit ahead of more points of Synchronizely, about 20 points behind on the Renault team, so Synchronizely knows if he can hold on to this 3rd place, maybe even gain 1 or 2, and Craig can find its way through the field, then Renault will be in a good place to recoup some of those points. But of course all these guys now, all 18 cars are on the grid, and they're waiting for those 5 lights, just teasing the cars' engines as we now wait for 4, 5 red lights. It's going to be a race into turn 1, but who will lead it? And it's lights out, and away we go. And it looks like it seems to be a good start for our pole sitter, and he's going to try and cover off the inside immediately. Jeffrey's going to have to look to the outside line. As to his Synchronizely, there's going to be a little bit of a pile up as Williams and Stephen goes onto the grass to try and get down the inside. Gav's going to allow Gav to go around the outside of him. It's a fabulous move by the Racing Point driver. Wojtek's got into P3 ahead of Synchronizely, and Nitrogas as well. They bang wheels into turns 2, now coming down the hill to turn 3, but it's Jeffrey who leads the race. Gareth is into P2, Wojtek's into P3, Synchronizely's dropped down to P4, and it looks like, we've got someone at the back. It's Stephen at the back.
Yeah, we just had, I believe it was Colin and Stephen going through turn 3, and they've just made slight contact, and it sent Stephen round, unfortunately, and I think Colin got away with that one, but unfortunately Synchronizely has been caught up in that as well.
And Synchronizely, devastating. I think that might have been all on his own. I know he's very close with Haas and Nitro Gas. I think the Stevenson was a little bit further behind him. He might have just dropped it on the exit of turn 4, and I couldn't quite see it, but I think that might have been what happened. Of course, we might be able to get his review on that. But it seems just such a shame, because he has been it's been quite an up and down season for him. It's been either a good result or a DNF, and tonight is the DNF. And Stephen will be a little bit cursed about his luck, dropping from P10 down to P17. Cryptox as well has dropped down to P16. Durazio's already made up 4 places. He's in P14. But the virtual safety car is green, and we're back underway. And Gareth will be determined to try and take back his lead. But it's not the best restart, it seems. He's already 1.1 seconds behind. He's going to look a little bit behind. And you see further back, it looks like, and the McLaren of F1 Richard almost going straight in the back of his teammate. And he's gone straight into the wall. Now that is a bizarre, isn't it? I don't know if he's got some sort of brake failure or a problem with his rig, but I mean, he almost went straight in the back of his teammate and Luke Bailey and went straight into the tyre barrier. That's bizarre.
That's unfortunate. I was just looking further down the order. Both Mercedes picked up damage in those turn 1 incidents, those lap 1 incidents, and both unfortunately had to pit, which is effectively, unless there's a safety car, ruin their races. Absolute
disaster start for the Mercedes team, and it's 2 DNFs already in the opening 2 laps for Synchronizely and F1 Richard, and we're now seeing a little bit of a buffer form between the top 4. Brenos probably a little bit shocked by what happened to his teammate in turn 1. It's now 1.7 seconds back, so he's got to be a little bit careful he doesn't form his own little train behind him, and he'll want to try and get into the DRS zone of Nitro Gas ahead of him in the Red Bull. But I'm sure he won't be thinking about that too much yet. He wants to try and hold back Luke Bailey and Craig, the 2 championship leaders behind him. And that'll be interesting to see. But Jeffrey already pulling out a 1.9 second gap. It looks like Gareth's going to have to look backwards before we can look forward.
Yeah, Wojtek is all over him. He's looking like he's going to make a move here. He's not in the slipstream. He's pulling to the outside. Will he stick it around the outside? Let's see as they go side by side into turn 1. No, it doesn't look like he's got the line. Gareth's covered that well, but he's got a good run on him now down into turn 2. I don't think he'll be close enough to make a move though.
Thinks better of it, so Gareth now that's 2.2 seconds, so it shows how much time you can lose if you get into a little bit of a battle. But it was a very good start from Jeffrey. Gareth got a very good launch, decided to cover the inside line. Jeffrey thought, okay then, I'll go around the outside, and made it stick, so he got a very, very good run into turn 1 to Jeffrey, and he's absolutely made the most of it so far. Despite the virtual safety car, he has managed to pull a 2.1 second gap as there. Now Tennis is in the pits. I imagine now it's down to damage as well. And two Ferraris picking up good points in Brazil. It was been a tough start to the season. They're now in 8th and 10th, so they've made up a little bit of progress, and I'm sure they'll be looking to find even more points ahead of them. And looks like Gareth a little bit beginning to drop Wojtek on this lap. Wojtek now about 9/10 of a second behind, and Gareth just pulling a few tenths on Jeffrey immediately on this lap. So it looks like he's going to... Oh, Jeffrey's in the wall. Jeffrey's lost it. He's dropped out on turn 12. He's gone into the wall, and he's just trying to ride on board of him. He's broken his front wing as well, so he's absolutely dropped it on turn 12. Very careful rejoin, which I think is the wise thing to do. But it's dropped from just that one mistake. It's dropped him from P1 to P13. He's going to have to pit early, and it's gifted the lead back to Gareth.
Yeah, like we were saying before the race, he's very quick, and he was getting away from Gareth, pulling a nice gap. He didn't need to be pushing so hard, but yeah, it's all very good having pace, but you've got to have the race consistency to back it up. And unfortunately, again, Jeffrey has made a mistake and has cost himself massively.
And Nitro, I say, thinking about a move on Wojtek. I'm sure his eyes lit up to see the racing point in the barriers there, because that now means he is in a podium position as it stands. And he's looking very racy tonight, the Red Bull driver, and of course racing on Tuesday nights as well. And he's now just 5/10 of a second behind the Haas, and the Haas has got to make sure if he wants to keep this Red Bull behind, it'd be a lot easier to do so if he has DRS on the Williams in front. Gareth clattering the curbs over that chicane there, and then coming into the twisty S's of the second sector. And of course, this can be very difficult to follow when you're in a dirty air like Nitro Gas is right now. But he will be a little bit relieved when he looks behind and he can see a 1.7 gap to the McLaren of Brennon's, and Brennon's still looking a little bit behind him. They still got to think about cars behind him, and Nitro Gas, you see, just making a couple of mistakes there through the S's, and he's now just dropped back just outside the DRS zone. In fact, to Wojtek, so it can show just from being just a few tenths behind the Haas, he's now dropped without a second. So it's so difficult to follow around this track, and we're now go on board and have a look at our championship leader on Craig, and it looks like he's dropped a little bit off Luke Bailey. He's got to be a little bit careful from Colin, because as we saw in Brazil, Colin's got very good race pace at times.
Yeah, Colin has got good race pace, as we saw in Brazil, and he's all over the back of Craig at the moment. But at the moment, this little train here is going to be a bit of a stalemate until one of them makes a move. It could free up a bit of air for a car to drop back, and then someone behind will have DRS. But all the time the three of them have DRS is going to be a bit of a stalemate. So yeah, we're just waiting on someone to make a move at the moment, make something happen.
Of course, it's difficult to rotate on this track, and of course the middle sector in particular, the dirty air, can be very difficult. But Craig will be knowing he's right behind his championship leader, and of course he don't want to do anything silly. He knows there's a long race to go, and of course, as we're saying, the only man to pick up points in each race, and the way you do that is not by making any rash decisions. And he's just biding his time at the moment, I imagine. And of course he knows, as we were saying earlier, track limits are particularly strict around here. You can get away with it a lot of corners. It's like one of the Mercedes has dropped it out of turn 4. I think that might have been steel, and it looks like he's minus a front wing end plate, so it might be another trip to the pits for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure he's going to carry on from here. Although it would be good, because there could always be a safety car. So best not to give up. But it's looking like a horrible day at the office for both Mercedes at the moment.
Certainly is, of course. There is that chance of a safety car later in the race to try and get these guys back up into the race, and I'm sure Tinnis as well will be hoping for that. He's currently in P13, 24 seconds behind Sir Spud in P12, and Craig's got to be careful, because he's very close to the back of Luke, and he's looking like he's trying to get the move done. He looks particularly good in this middle sector, but he's got to be very careful, because calling out that last corner is getting really close to the championship leader, and just a couple of tenths behind. But up front, so you can see the gaps there. Gareth has pulled a 1.1 second gap, so he is just about clear of the DRS zone of the Haas, which DRS isn't massively overly effective. It's not quite as bad as Brazil, where Brazil, if you're not in the DRS, you're going to be losing quite a bit of chunk of time, and to make a bad race ending, gets 5 seconds for speeding the pit line, and then duly retires. So a bad race there for Still, and a bit of bad luck as well, of course. And we'll have the yellow flag out for him. But a little bit of a train here for him from Brennon's, and I'm sure it can be quite difficult, isn't it, when you're looking behind to try and make progress. But he's really got to sort of get on with it, because he could be, at the moment, really losing his chance to get onto the podium.
Yeah, they do need to get on with it, and someone needs to possibly put a move on Brennan's. This could be a good opportunity now. I think Luke Bailey might just be a bit too far back. Again, a bit of a stalemate as we head on to lap 7, but Gareth just keeping that second gap out front. He just made a bit of a mistake, I saw, in sector 3, and now as you see it dips into under a second briefly. So looking like he could come under a bit of pressure, but he's handling it well at the moment.
Yeah, it's just got to make sure he gets that really nice run out of the last corner, and it will make it increasingly hard for Luke Bailey. But Luke Bailey is that man who's saying if anyone's going to make a move on the McLaren, it is going to be him. He is first in the queue, and he's really keeping well on the McLaren in the first half of the lap. But can he just get close enough coming out that last corner? So he's just a 2.3 second gap behind the Red Bull, and the Red Bull Nitrogas now just dropping off slightly to Wojtek. 1.5 seconds is the gap between the Haas and the Red Bull driver. And so Nitrogas won't mind that too much. He's sat in a very good position. He knows there's a long ways to go. Maybe just biding his tyres, biding his time, just trying to keep it clean, keep it within the track limits. And the gap between Gareth and Wojtek, well, they're staying about the same, 1.1, 1.2 seconds. So Gareth is safe from the DRS zone. You see, still they're leaving the session. You've got to feel bad for him. It's a real shame for him. And I'm sure these guys will be thinking about their pit stops fairly soon, because well, if you are stuck in traffic, the undercut is a real possibility around here, because as much as it is quite a high tyre wear circuit, you really can. The hard tyres are so durable around here. You can sort of go forever with them, can't you?
Yeah, when those mediums do get old and start to overheat a bit, you can find yourself losing a lot of time. So the undercut onto the hards is a like I say, massive possibility, and I'm sure we'll see a couple of drivers try and do that to get out of their trains tonight. As we see, Wojtek now has ducked into the DRS zone of Gareth and has closed up to the back of him in that first sector, so we could possibly be seeing a fight on for the lead soon.
And Colin picking up 3 seconds there of time penalties. Maybe not quite learnt his lesson from Brazil. Brazil, he's doing so strong, but he did have a lot of penalties, which did drop in perhaps positions that he perhaps should have had. And as you're saying there, Wojtek is, I think, maybe just a mistake on that previous lap from, or this lap from Gareth, but he has done well to recover some of that gap. It was down to about 6 tenths after the first sector of this lap. And he might just be a way to get out of the DRS zone of the Haas driver. He's come around now, he's going very wide around turn 13, maybe just allowing the exit to really maximise it. But no, it looks like Wojtek's going to take quite a tight line around turn 14. He's going to be quite comfortably in the DRS zone. And we've seen Gareth quite a lot of times not having the slipperiest of a car in a straight line. We see what Wojtek's like in a straight line. He's going to close up, but he's not quite close enough to make the move on the Williams driver. We'll go further back, see what Luke Bailey's going to have a little bit of a sniff at Reynolds, but again, he won't make the move stick. And we're saying just a few of those trains beginning to develop, and Craig is just sitting nicely. I think he's fairly happy to be just behind his championship rival right about now. But again, Gareth, I'm sure he'll be. It's going to be very difficult, because he knows that in a moment or two, the pit window's going to open, and he's now in real danger of, if he allows Wojtek to get the undercut, he could potentially lose his race lead.
Yeah, the first lap is a bit hit and miss. If you do it early, while the mediums are still good, you can find the undercut not being so effective, because the guys out there on mediums have still got fairly good life in those tyres. But if these guys go to lap 14, 15, 16 potentially, then the undercut becomes a lot stronger as the mediums are fading a bit. So yeah, he has got to be careful of that, but I'm sure if he does just pit that one lap later, he'll have a fighting chance of staying ahead of Wojtek.
And Wojtek now just seems to be really good in this last sector. Just closes up on Gareth just by just a tenth or two, and it's now just half a second behind. He's going to get a very nice slipstream. He's going to have the DRS. He's not going to use the full maximum effect of the slipstream, but he's going to look to the inside. Gareth's going to defend. He's going to come back to the racing line, and Wojtek just getting ever so closer to the back of that Williams rear wing. He's going to get a nice exit. He's got a DRS zone, the second DRS zone into turn 2, and they're going to go side by side here. He's got the DRS, going to pull ahead of the Williams just temporarily, and Gareth's going to try and just push him out a little bit. He hugs the inside, and he gets a really nice line. He gets just enough speed to keep himself at the Haas, but he's now going to be in tremendous danger, because it seems like in the last 2 laps, Gareth doesn't seem to have the straight line speed to hold that Haas back.
No, he definitely hasn't got the straight line speed, because I was just riding on board with Wojtek, and he's only in the second ERS setting, so he's got another 3 ERS settings to use on that straight to increase his straight line speed. So I'm sure if he does use that overtake button, he'll looking like he'd be breezing past if he does decide to use that.
Gareth, that certainly does look in real danger. He's very, once again, very strong in that middle sector, but he's got to be perhaps just a little bit more eager on the throttle. Maybe just doesn't have the grip in the last two corners, because Wojtek's looking just much more confident. And a little bit of a ragged lap here from Luke Bailey, the man second place in the championship hunt, and he's now dropped 1.3 seconds to the McLaren of Brennan, so he's going to struggle if he wants to get DRS, and it will open the door to his championship rival of Craig. We're going right on board with the top two, and we're right on board with Wojtek, see just how much he gains even without the slipstream. Looks like Gareth's going to be safe on this time, but he's going to make sure he gets a better run out of this first corner than he did last lap if he doesn't want to repeat of turn 2. We'll go down to have a look and see Craig's just not quite close enough on the Alfa Romeo, but what this little bit of squabbling and maybe a couple of little mistakes from Gareth has done is now nitro gas is now in DRS zone of Wojtek, so he's now got two cars to contend with.
Yeah, it causes a massive knock-on effect. If you can't get that move done, you start drawing people in close behind you, and like you say, nitro gas is now closed up to the back of Wojtek, and it could lead to Brennan's potentially closing up to the back of nitro gas. So knock-on effect is really strong around here. If the car at the front is starting to hold people up, then everyone starts to bunch up. So we need to look out for that. And as you say, yeah, Luke Bailey dropped back from Brennan's, and notably also Simon Palmer sitting in a pretty decent position at the moment, down in P8. He's on those hard tyres. He'll obviously be going a little bit longer than these guys, but once they all make their pit stops and he switches over onto that faster medium compound, he could find himself in a very handy position and in attack mode for the rest of the race.
He certainly could do, and of course he was saying the pit window should open pretty soon for these guys. I'm sure those of them who are stuck in a little bit of trainers, you see Colin in the Ferrari, he's going to duck into the pit lane, so he's the first man to blink of these medium runners, and he's the man directly ahead of Simon Palmer, who's saying on those hard tyres, who is the leading driver on those hard tyres at the moment. He'll go up into 7th place, so it is Colin who's going to blink first, and we'll move forward because it looks like Craig's getting it all so close, and Luke Bailey going a little bit of a wider line on turn 1, but it won't cost him too much time because he'll get himself just a better traction and a better straight line speed out of turn 1, but he's going a little bit wide into turn 2, maybe just losing a little bit of time due to maybe just a bit of a wear on his medium tyres as Gareth picks up a 3-second penalty, and you really don't want that at all, especially when you're he's now gone off. Oh, no, he's retired.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Was that at turn 4? Yeah, it's turn 4. He's lost it coming out of turn 4 and has found himself in that wall at the exit there. So yeah, unfortunately, big mistake there has cost him a big haul of points. Unfortunately for Gareth, will it cause a safety car? It's caused a virtual safety car. So this is an ideal time now for the medium runners to pit.
Yeah, got to feel so bad for Williams driver. He's saying he probably felt Brazil was a race win that could have been his. Didn't quite go his way there, and well, second time the race leader hasn't had it his own way and so spun out of this race. Jeffrey spun out on the lap 2, I believe. He managed to keep going via a pit stop for a new front wing, and Gareth wasn't quite that lucky as Tinnis has managed to pick up a 3-second time penalty while corner cutting, so maybe just a little bit of lack of concentration. But yeah, got to feel really sad there for the Williams driver, and of course now retiring from the race as we'll get back under the green flag. Interestingly, Luke Bailey and Craig, the only two drivers to pit under that VSC. Will they get an advantage of the other drivers? Won't. I just probably think they won't gain too much from trial. It seems like the virtual safety car is just about ending as they came in there.
Yeah, unfortunately it didn't really work out for the guys that pitted. Like you say, the virtual safety car was just ending. They might have gained a small advantage, but nothing too notable. So yeah, it was worth the gamble to pit, I think, but yeah, they won't have gained too much. So race continues, and now Wojtek is our new leader, and he's got nitro gas for company.
And of course, it's the two Toro Rossos made still yet to make their pit stop, but they've made pretty good progress from outside the top 10. They currently run 5th and 6th. Stephen as well, recovering from that first lap incident, and he's a couple of seconds behind. So there's still a good chance of good points, and of course we've lost 4 drivers already. Still plenty of time left in the race, and of course Wojtek now has broken out DRS and nitro gas, so it looks like he might just have the little bit of a pace advantage over the Red Bull driver. And of course Brennan's, he'll be looking at the 2 drivers ahead and knows if he's got a little bit of pace in those hard tyres, he knows he's certainly still in the conversation for the win as well. And Simon Palmer on those hard tyres just got a little bit of a cushion to these 2 Toro Rosso drivers. And Colin, interestingly, has pitted for the medium tyres compared to Luke Bailey and Craig ahead of him on the hard tyres, and he's now given Craig a real headache now because he could potentially just be about to overtake our championship leader. Craig does not have DRS on Luke Bailey in front. He's dropped a little bit of time as Colin sets a new fast lap of the race. Craig's going to go defensive. He doesn't want to lose any time. Certainly not going to want to lose a position. Colin's going to accept that and just going to take the slightly wider line into turn 1. But it'll be interesting to see if he gets a little bit of better traction on those medium tyres. DRS wide open, stuck into the slipstream. Craig doesn't quite shut the door into turn 2. He lets the Ferrari have the inside line, try to come back underneath him, but no, Colin's got the move done. And I suppose Craig probably doesn't want to let the Ferrari through, but I mean, I'm sure he'll be hoping now that he can go and disturb Luke Bailey's race as much as he's disturbed his.
Yeah, that is exactly what he'll be hoping for now. I think Craig just played it safe then. Didn't fight too hard. It was a great move by Colin. Nice, and went quite deep on the brakes. He had obviously a lot more grip than Craig by the looks of it, and got a good move done there down to turn 2. Interesting though, he has locked himself into a 2-stop, so he really does need to get a move on, and it's vital that he got past Craig so quickly.
Yeah, it might even be hoping for a safety car later in the race, or a virtual safety car later in the race to help with that second pit stop. But you see just how much grip he's got on those medium tyres. He's already all over the back of that Alfa Romeo driver. You can see his teammate as well, so Spud on the hard tyres just ahead of him. So I'm sure he'll be maybe getting on the telephone to his teammate very soon to say, let me through, I'm on the better tyres. But let's see if he can get past Luke Bailey. He's going to get a nice exit. Luke Bailey does not have the DRS, and once he gets another new fastest lap of the race, he's going to tuck down the inside. He's going to take him down the straight, get his perfect braking points for turn 1, and he's going to come out into P8, and now he has his teammate just ahead of him. I'm sure so Spud on a different strategy on those harder tyres, still yet to pit. Be doing his teammate too many headaches, and see the top 3. They're in a bit of a space of their own, going quite nice and deep into this race. They've got to be careful that they don't allow these guys of Luke Bailey, Craig, and probably even Colin, as so Spud does get out of the way. Quite interestingly, on the exit of turn 4, a little bit of a brave place to go over to let your teammate through. But we'll go right on board with Dragio, who's closed the gap now down to Simon Palmer. You think this is a quite good pace from Dragio, because you think his tyres are the 14 laps old. Of course, they started from the back, so they're brand new medium tyres, so they will be a little bit more durable than the cars in front of him. But you'd think this is a sort of part of the race where Simon Palmer's tyres are becoming a little bit better than those of the drivers on mediums as Dragio pits. But it doesn't seem to have just ramped up the pace enough, has he, just yet?
Yeah, it would be around about now that the hards will sort of even themselves out against the wearing mediums and possibly become a good bit quicker. But yeah, Dragio did have a very good pace leading up to that pit stop, so it's probably the right time to pit so he doesn't lose too much time behind Simon. So yeah, Dragio's looking in a pretty handy position himself now if he can get the hammer down. And
we'll just see where the Terosa driver comes out, and of course he's made his pit stop now. He'll be going to the end of those hard tyres, come out P10, so from the back of the grid he's already in those points paying positions. And looks like we've got almost a 3 wide into turn 2. Craig's got past his championship rival. He's going to try and hang it around the outside of turn 2. He's going to go and try and go wheel to wheel. The Ferrari just thinks a bit better of it on the turn 3. He's going to come up the hill to turn 4. It's going to be wary because Luke Bailey's all over the back of him. He's going to dart left and right. Got a yellow flag. We've got Colin now a time for the race, and he's done the same as Gareth, it looks like. Safety car.
Yeah, full safety car. This is possibly going to play into the hands of, well, it is definitely going to play into the hands of all the guys who haven't pitted, and possibly Simon. I don't know whether he'll be able to go this early. He might be able to if he's kind on his tyres, but yeah, it's unfortunate for Colin, isn't it? You know, he's looking really quick, dispatched the 2 cars, 2 very quick cars really easily, and looked to be setting off into the distance, but pushing a bit too hard again, and he's found himself in the wall now at that treacherous turn 4. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. They're going to bunch everyone up. Craig did a fantastic move around the outside Luke Bailey in turn 2 and was looking at the Sir Spud, but didn't quite manage to pull it off. But yeah, it was a great move, and yeah, it's going to bunch everyone up and make this really interesting. Simon does pit now, so Simon is going to chance his arm here and go on to the mediums. I'm
sure we're hoping the safety car stays out for quite a few laps just to ease the tyre length fee. You'll have to go on these tyres, of course. They can quite, as you're saying, a brand new set of mediums, you could probably do upwards of 16 laps on them, maybe even a few more, as you're saying, if you're kind to them. So the longer the safety car stays out, the better for him. He will be absolutely lightning for the opening few laps. It'd be interesting to see, does he go backwards towards the end of the race? And it looks like he's going to come out in P4, so he's really in a solid position. Interesting to Spud, who's on the same strategy as Simon, doesn't think this is far too early, stays out on those hard tyres. Could potentially be, he may come into the pits towards the end of the safety car, he may think better of it, who knows. But it's interesting they've gone for split strategies there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Sir Spud has not decided to pit here, because it is a free pit stop effectively, so you don't really lose anything from it, and he could have brought himself right back into this race if he had pitted. He may still do at this lap, but yeah, it's so we got, who have we got? We got Wojtek, Nitrogas, Brennons at the top three at the moment, and Simon in P4, like you say, is looking very handy now.
This is going to be fascinating because the first 10, 12, 13 laps, or the next 10, 12, 13 laps, Simon Palmer is going to be over the top three like a rash. It'll be interesting. Can he get himself into the front? But then, of course, those last 5, 6 laps, I'm sure the pendulum will swing back into the favour of the current top three guys. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see. Wojtek, Nitrogas and Brennon's been the three. Haven't really put a foot wrong. It's been quite sad. We've lost, obviously, Jeffrey at the start of the race when it seemed to be going well for him. Had a really nice start, really nice opening couple of laps, put it in the wall. But he's got a chance of recovery now. The safety car's putting back into play, and he's pitted for a new set of meters as well, so he'll be coming through the field, and I'm sure he'll be looking to redeem himself a nice few points. Gareth was in the race lead, he was looking so nice for the Williams driver. He came onto some pressure from Wojtek, and he just seemed to just crack under that pressure. Lost it around turn 4. Colin as well is committed to the 2-stop strategy, but it had some really nice pace about him. Looks like he was on for a good haul of points, and a very similar incident, it seems, to Gav, just dropping it on turn 4. It's just such an easy corner to drop it on race fuel loads, of course, as well, and worn tyres. It does become quite a tricky, easy corner to not just get an invalidation. It's easy to lose it, and it seems we lost a couple of guys from that. Also lost St. Knudsley on the first lap as well, which I believe was also turn 4, and still an F1 Richard. They are the other retirements. But it's going to be really interesting. Different strategies all about the field. We've got the guys from P10 to P13. They're all on brand new medium tyres. They're going to cause a real headache for guys like the championship leaders of Craig and Luke Bailey, sat in 6th and 7th. They're on fairly new hard tyres, so they wanted that truck position. Didn't feel the need to come in again, which is, I think we can all understand. But they could be in danger from those guys just outside the points of coming back at them.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Brennon's, it seems like in terms of the championship, he finds himself ahead of Nitrogas and Wojtek. But it didn't seem like he didn't quite have the pace to sort of close up on his top two. It'd be interesting to see what he can do. Now he is effectively set to default. He's now right in the back of these guys. Can he get potentially in front of them?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be giving it his best, but he's obviously going to be looking behind at Simon, who's going to be, well, we assume very quick on those medium tyres. So I'm sure he'll be looking behind initially more than in front. Another thing we haven't touched on is Jeffrey now has been brought up to the back of this pack, and we know how quick he was in the beginning, so gives Jeffrey another chance, and also JSP and Tinnis that were unfortunately caught up in first lap incidents. So yeah, it's fortunately for the guys at the back, it's brought them back into it. And
just see there in the minimap, JSP just about to catch up with these guys, and as you're saying, just brings we've got now 13 runners just so close, and with the last 16 laps, 17 laps, we're gonna have an all-out warfare, I imagine, for the final points paying positions. And only 13 runners, so you've only got past 3 people to get yourself some championship points. And for those of these drivers who potentially haven't had it all their own way in the championship, this is a real good opportunity. I'm sure Stephen as well, other than Simon Palmer, he's the next guy on the medium tyres. He's in P10, so I'm sure we'll be looking to try and go forward before his tyres probably fall off towards the end of the race. It's going to be really, really interesting to see. We're going to have, hopefully, we'll have the safety car peel in to the pits on this lap, and I'm sure Simon Palmer, those medium runners, we're quite happy to see the safety car stay out for a couple of laps. They were saying they want to look after the tyres the best they can. Important for these guys on hards as well, especially when they're quite new, to try and keep temperature in them as well, because it'll be very easy to lose it, I imagine, at turn 4 and once we get restarted.
Yeah, it will be very easy to lose it. It's really difficult to keep temperature in these hard tyres, so that'll be key for the restart for these guys. And what are we looking at here then? So Stephen down in P10 is the first of the medium runners at the back, and obviously Simon is way ahead further up. Another thing, the safety car obviously has gone round again, so every lap this safety car stays out is going to be helping these medium guys preserve their tyres for the end of the race, so their position only becomes stronger now.
And there's confirmation safety car is in this lap, and as I say, there's a real chance for a couple of these drivers to really make some really good points. You see Red Bull there last in the constructors on 20 points. I think they're just a point or two behind, excuse me, Ferrari, I think it might be. So Nitrogas set there in P2 waving the banner for the Red Bull team this evening. Malc sadly cannot join us, so he's doing everything he can to try and boost his team up in constructors, and it could be on for a nice haul of points. And you see Wojtek just releasing the gun there, and he's but he's not quite dropped the Red Bull drive, but it should be safe down his first straight. Of course, no DRS initially. It's a good restart from Brennan's as well. Simon Palmer hasn't had the best of restarts. I'm sure he'll catch up to these guys very, very quickly. And looks like further back, it looks like Craig and the Spud are already changing positions. So you see further back as well, looks like there's Tero Rosso's going side by side. Nitro Gas just a few tenths of a second behind Wojtek. So it's going to be so interesting to see the Ferrari of Spud. He didn't come into the pit, so he's going to stay out on those hard tyres. I'm sure it'll be a bit of a moving chicane for a lot of these guys to try and get past him. You see now going wide into turn 3 and coming up the hill. He's got almost side by side of Tero Rosso. Tero Rosso quite tops. Just then Dracio picking up 3 seconds, and Tero Rosso almost going into the back of the Ferrari drive there. But I imagine he's going to be dropping very, very quickly.
Yeah, so Spud has just got no grip. I really can't understand for the life of me why he didn't pit under that safety car. It seems like a bit of a ridiculous decision at the moment, because he's going to find himself at the back of the grid and miles off last place. So yeah, he's just picked up another penalty as well. So it's not looking like it's going well for Sir Spud. He ideally needs another safety car now, but at the moment it's looking like he's going to be the only one causing it, because he's got no grip.
It's all over the track there. He's really struggling, but he's doing his best to keep guys behind him. See Craig and Luke Bailey just ahead of him. I'm sure they're pretty happy that he's doing that. It's Sam Palmer there going really wide at the last corner. He's got really close, but we'll go back on board as the Spud. Looks like he's got a decent run up the last corner. Looks like I think the two Terrassos were changing position. You see further back, it looks like O'Stevens got the run on Cryptox. Yeah. And of course he is on the medium tyres, and he wants to make progress as quick as he possibly can, and Jeffrey follows him through. So a nice bit of racecraft there from Jeffrey, following his rival through down the inside of turn 1, and now it looks like Tennis is now going for the move around the outside of turn 2. Can he get the job done? It looks like Cryptox is absolutely dropping like a fly. It's been absolutely swallowed up by this train of medium runners, and he can't help but lose positions left, right and centre.
Yeah, unfortunately Cryptox going into the second to last corner, he just ran wide. I don't know why, he just didn't slow down enough and ran wide, ran off the track sort of into the pit lane area and let his teammate pass, and then from then it was just a knock-on effect, and he was just losing position after position. So it was really, unfortunately, poor bit of driving there from Cryptox by the looks of it, unless he's got damage, and he's cost himself a lot of positions. And so Spud and
they've got Wojtek's lost it. Wojtek's lost it just on the exit of the second sector, coming into turn 12. So another race leader, he's damaged his front wing as well. So once again, I think for the third time, the race leader has made a mistake, and he's now dropped it. And I mean, for touch wood, it all goes right for Nitro Gas, because that first place seems to be cursed at the moment, as O'Steven is doing everything he can to get past that Ferrari. He is determined, and the Ferrari does come into the pits, and he follows Wojtek into the pit lane. But I mean, that first position absolutely cursed. But O'Steven's made up good progress, and of course he wanted to get their head down, because he knows that Dragio and all of the cars but one of the cars are on the hard tyre, so he knows there's more progress yet. But once again, the race lead has now been gifted to the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, it's a bit like a hot potato with the lead tonight. No one seems to want it, so we'll see who Nitro Gas chucks it to next if he doesn't want it, but I'm sure he'll be doing his best to hang on to the lead.
And Simon Palmer might just be, I'm not sure, I'm just looking at his front wing, and he's actually lost a front wing end plate off that front right, unless there's some sort of glitch I'm not aware of. It looks like he's missing downforce massively, which makes sense, because he's now 2.3 seconds off the McLaren man. And Craig, on the harder tyres, the slower tyres and older tyres, is now all over the back of the Alfa Romeo driver. I'm sure Simon is doing all he can to hold up the championship leader, for at least for his teammate. But see just how much grip he does not have through that last sector. And coming to turn 12, Craig's not going to even wait. He's going to send it down the inside of Simon Palmer and slides past the Alfa Romeo. What will Simon Palmer do? Does he let his teammate through? He's going to almost go in the back of the Renault. Just Matt, he's going to car slowed down. Does he come into the pit? No, he's going to fend off with the front wing damage. But I mean, you can just see riding board of him just how much downforce he's missing.
Yeah. He's just got no grip. He's obviously running the back of someone on.
Sorry, Reynolds is going for the lead into turn 1. He's going to try a late move. He's just going to, just almost taps the back of the Red Bull driver. He just about gets away with it. It's just about 3 attempts or 2 just behind the Red Bull driver. He went for the late move. It was a valiant attempt. He just managed to slow the car down. Of course, there was turn 4 at Brazil last race, where he went for a move down the inside. It just ran out, just tapped the back of the car, went in the barrier. This time, just managed to back out of it. Sorry to cut you off there, Charlie. It looks like Luke Bailey's, looks like Simon's let his teammate go.
Simon's finally let him go. He should have probably done it a few corners before, because now Luke Bailey is out of Craig's DRS, so he's just popped back into it. But yeah, he could have got that done a bit earlier for his teammate and helped him out, but he decided to try and cling on. But yeah, again, Simon is just, I don't know, sort of bottled it again in the race when he was in a really good position, and unfortunately is going to find himself dropping back now. He's got Dragio for company all over his gearbox in the middle sector.
And looks like oh, I think one of the flyers at the back might be, so Spud has just had a spin on the might have been exit of turn 4, maybe even turn 5. So once again, that corner just catching out a couple of drivers here tonight, and he's on fresh mediums as well. So it's a very tricky corner. We're also seeing the last of Jeffrey, I think, having a spin on the exit of turn 5 as well. So another mistake from the Racing Point driver that's allowed Cryptox back into the top 10 on those harder tyres. And we'll just look. Dragio is desperate to get past that Alfa Romeo driver. I'm sure he can almost smell the lack of downforce on the Alfa Romeo. He's going to look to the inside, just think better of it. Maybe just try and frighten Mr. P off the road or two. He's going to get DRS coming into turn 2. Oh, and he's just dropped it on exit. Yeah,
Dragio had a massive snap of oversteer then. He just got on that outside curb and spun his wheels up. You really want to avoid that outside curb, because you can find yourself pointing the wrong way if you slam the throttle down too hard. But he managed to catch it, and he's just dropped behind over Stephen now, so he's going to have some work to do to get back up to the back of Simon.
You're saying Luke Bailey, of course, when he did finally get past his teammate Simon Palmer, he did drop outside the DRS zone of Craig, but he's very quickly got back into it, 6/10 of a second behind the Renault driver, so he's clearly got some very good pace about him. Craig sat in that final podium position of third, Luke Bailey in fourth, and further ahead of them we've got Nitrogas, who's touchwood. I don't want to jinx him, because it seems like the first place driver gets all the bad luck in the world tonight, but he's doing a good job so far. He's broken the DRS of McLaren of Brennan, so he's 1.5 seconds behind him, and he's got a little bit of a cushion to the Renault driver. We're going to have a ride on board with Stephen, who very quickly could be the highest running driver on those medium tyres, and he's going to see his fellow medium runner Simon Palmer, who of course was P4 under safety car, on brand new mediums, looking really favoured to maybe even put himself in contention for the race win if he could hold on to those tyres. But it's all gone wrong for him with the front wheel. He's going to make a very late defensive move. He's going to really push the Williams down the inside, but he's not going to be feared from it. And Jeffrey sets new fast lap, but the Williams is slailed down the inside. Simon Palmer's going to try and come back underneath him, but it just doesn't seem to have the downforce in it. And it looks like Stevens moves up into 5th place. And he's got 3.6 seconds to gain, but of course if he wants to gain him that time back, he's going to have to gain it quickly, because you imagine just in probably the next 5, 6, 7 laps, those mediums probably will begin to fade off. Yeah,
I don't think Simon's going to have much answer for anyone, and I know Stephen, like you say, does need to gain a lot of time now up to Luke if he wants to make those mediums pay in this second stint, but unfortunately for Simon it's only going to be going backwards now for him, with that lack of downforce, and Dragio's now got a second chance of closing up to the back of him.
Yeah, it's all gone wrong for Simon Palmer since the safety car restart. Of course, he's lacking downforce now. Imagine what he's going to be like come the last 5 or 6 laps when those medium tyres are well and truly gone off. So, but Dragio looks like it's all over the back. It looks like he's almost trying to push that Alfa Romeo along, and it's just around turn 13, trying it around the outside. It was going to be ambitious, and Simon Palmer just make sure he's very late on the brakes to defend that one. Of course, it's going to be, I think he's got a time penalty as well, so it could drop positions automatically. Dragio, aside from the back of the grid, remember, it's in P7. It looks like it's going to be P6 in just about any moment. He's going to see what his straight line speed's like. It's got the DOS, got the slipstream, not gaining a massive amount. Simon Palmer's going to go defensive, but he leaves the door open down that inside, and Dragio makes it stick. But Simon Palmer's going to come back underneath and just goes a little bit wider to us to drive. Now he's going to look behind him, because you can see Tinnis and the Haas driver is going to have a little bit of a look down the inside of turn 2, and he's going to go for it. He's going to try and hang it around the outside Dragio, and a little bit of contact, and Tinnis just about managed to get away with it. And he's now got to be a little bit careful. GSP's all over the back of him, but as Wojtek now setting the new fast lap, so what could have been for him. Of course, he has made a pit stop. I think he had damage as well, but once again, Simon Palmer doing best he can, but he's got 10 laps realistically to try and hold on to any sort of point scoring positions. Yeah,
it's a mammoth task, but I'm sure he'll grasp it with both hands and do his best. But I can't see him holding on too much longer. He's just really struggling now through every corner. Another thing to mention, I think Jeffrey must have had a moment on his own again, because he's dropped down behind the two Toro Rossos, Tinnis and Dragio. I think he might have been behind Dragio. Anyways, Dragio has moved past Simon now into sector 3.
turn 12. Not an opportunity you normally consider an overtaking opportunity on this track, we're saying, but you can be quite inventive around here on tracks where it is difficult to overtake, and he's certainly been inventive there. Of course, the middle sector is probably going to be where that lack of downforce on the Alfa Romeo is going to be its most vulnerable, and he's made a really nice move there, an opportunistic move, but the Alfa Romeo is looking pretty slippery in a straight line. He's going to look to the outside, see JSP behind looking like he's going to have an inside line down the inside of the Haas, but he can't quite make it stick. And got a yellow flag, and that looks like it's one of the Ferraris at the back. I think that's a Spud just dropping up next to their turn 5. So it's not been a great result for the Ferrari boys, despite once again having shown like they've had some pretty good pace. And
yeah, unfortunately Spud just threw his race away under that safety car by not pitting, and now he's found himself way down at the back, 40 seconds off 12th place, and with wing damage, so his race is effectively over.
In fact, I think it's now just getting lapped by the Red Bull of Nitrogas, who Nitrogas now pulled 2.7 seconds. Just wondering if Brennan's has had a mistake in there somewhere, because Craig is now in his DRS zone, which should be a little bit of a godsend for Craig, because that now means he's pretty safe to the car behind him of Luke Bailey, because that now means he'll have that advantage down the straight line. I'm sure if he can get that extra position as well, he'll be more than grateful to take it. So yeah, Simon Palmer also very late on the brakes goes tennis. He's going to try it running outside. No, he's just going to try and get a nice line. He's got to be careful because JSP is all over the back of him as Simon Palmer pits. Maybe we're just going for fastest lap, or who knows, but he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to try and get himself into the top 10. But he's now left tennis wide open for attack. We'll see what JSP can do. He's going to go down the inside of the Haas driver, and further back Jeff is going to go to the inside of Cryptox and go side by side. The Mercedes driver looks like he's got the move done, and it's just like tennis just squirting the fossil down out of turn 1, just losing a little bit of traction. He's got to be careful now because the Racing Point might fancy a little bit of a move. Pink's better over, but it looks like the Haas has gone a little bit deep. No, it's just about hold on to it. A good move there from the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, nice clean move from JSP there. Jeffrey equally making a move on Cryptox behind. Got a bit excited into the braking zone and steamed through, nearly collected the back of Tinner, so he was fortunate to avoid him. And now I'm sure he'll try and make his way past the Haas driver. But yeah, JSP up into P7 now from that unfortunate incident on lap 1. He's looking like he's made a good recovery.
Yeah, of course, and sure, Cryptox just biding his time a little bit. He knows the 3 cars ahead of him are on those medium tyres, and I'm sure he's fully aware that in the next few laps his tyres might just be a little bit better than these cars in front of him. So we'll maybe just try and keep his nose clean, as it looks like Vortex had another spin there on the exit of turn 5, all the way down into P12 now, and in fact he's actually retired from the race. So it's gone all wrong for him, as Craig looks like he's about to take a move on the McLaren. It looks like going just down the straight into turn 1, up into P2.
Yeah, nice easy move from Craig there. Brennan's didn't have the DRS, Craig did. Breeze passed him down the main straight into turn 1 and found himself up in P2 now. So it's another impressive drive from Craig so far. He's put a car in between himself and his championship rival as well, so another positive.
Well, can he do anything? He's got about 7 laps to go. He's got a 3-second gap. Has he got the pace to catch Nitrogas, who seemed to have just driven away? He's really taken that first place into his grasp, and so Spud there picking up 3 seconds there. But has really pulled out a really nice solid gap here now, Nitrogas. But sure, he wants to make sure it's clean. He's saying it can be easy to pick up a penalty if you just drop that concentration for just a moment. So he'll be desperate to make sure that he doesn't let this lead slip. And Brennan's, of course, he has got fresher tyres than Craig, so it's certainly not all is lost yet. I'm sure if he's got a slippery car in a straight line, he'll be wanting to use it on the Renault. But it's been a good recovery drive from the championship leader, qualified down in around, I think it was around 6th or 7th place, so might have even been further back than that. So to get himself onto the podium would be a fantastic result for him, especially if he sees his championship rival Luke Bailey not on the podium. But Luke Bailey is now very close to the back of the McLaren driver of Brennan's. Brennan's is going to go defensive, so it hasn't looked like he's got all the straight line speed in the world. Luke Bailey's going to have a little sniff down the inside. It does have the DRS on the Renault driver, but he's got to be careful. If he battles too hard, he might well lose it. Luke Bailey only a couple of tenths behind now. He's going to have a little look into turn 2. Both of them have got to be careful. Stephen is still catching this knot. He's on 13 lap old medium, so he's certainly still not out of conversation yet. Any penalties these guys have picked up certainly could come back to haunt them later, as Craig has taken half a second out of Nitrogas in the last lap.
Yeah, he's got a move on straight away since passing Brennan's, has Craig. So if he keeps his pace up, he might have a run on the last lap, but I can't see it at the moment. He needs to start taking a bit more, maybe 7 or 8 tenths a lap. So he gives himself a couple of laps to go for it. But hasn't taken anything on this lap so far, so it's not looking like it's going to happen yet.
And as we were just saying, Luke Bailey, I'm sure he'd be desperate. He's been looking at the back of his championship rival's rear wing for just quite a large point of the race, and now can't even see that. He's got his championship rival. He's seen him overtake the McLaren ahead of him. Now he wants to try and get past the McLaren. I'm sure he'd be desperate to get past Bernals when he looks behind him and sees the Williams on mediums just wrapping up the pace, and he's now in the DRS of the Alfa Romeo driver as well. And Bernals might have just slipped outside DRS, but he's got his DRS rear wing wide open down this straight, so he's going to have it for at least this lap. But Luke Bailey's very close to McLaren driver. Can have, once again, just going to have a little sniff down the inside. Can he get that bit of traction out of the first corner? Have a look into turn 2. No, Bernals gets a very nice exit there, so he should be safe for another lap. Just 5 laps left to go. Gap down to 2.3 seconds. So I think, as you're saying, Charlie, it looks like he just hasn't quite got the pace to reel in nitrogas. But of course, he knows penalties can still have pay their price in the race, so we'll just have to make sure the Red Bull driver doesn't get any penalties. And speaking of which, Brennan's there picking up 3 seconds, and I'm wondering if Luke Bailey, I'm sure he'll be onto his phone to his engineer very quickly, see if he has getting regular updates. But that could really cost Brennan's could at least 2 positions at the moment.
Yeah, that will cost him at the moment, because I'm not sure about O'Stephen, but I know for a fact that Luke Bailey has not got any penalties so far, so Brennan's is going to have to now get a move on. It doesn't look like he's got the pace to stretch away from Luke Bailey, but he's either going to have to get a move on or hope that Luke picks up a penalty himself. And
it's saying it doesn't seem to have quite the straight line speed down that straight, and got a yellow flag. I think that might be one of the Alfa Romeo's drivers losing it at turn 5. But he's got a nice exit there out at turn 13. He's got to get a good exit out of turn 13, as Bernals was saying. He hasn't got the slipperiest car in a straight line, it seems, and he won't have DRS this lap because Craig has driven away from him. We're right on board with Luke Bailey. He's going to reel him in at a rate of knots down this home straight, but he's still not quite close enough, so it looks like McLaren getting quite a nice exit out those last 2 corners there, and see what his exit is like out turn 1. But it looks like Stephen as well, I think he might have just locked up into turn 1 because he's lost himself a whole heap of time now, and he's now lost the DRS, and I'm sure he'll be able to get back into it. But he's now a second behind, only 4 laps to go, and Craig's got the gap down to about 2 seconds. Still not quite enough, unless the Red Bull driver picks up a penalty. I saw Nitrogas maybe just easing his pace a little bit to make sure he does that, keeping it clean. Of course, it's easy to pick up multiple warnings in one lap if you're not careful, and we wanted to make sure this victory is held very firmly within his grasp. And I'm sure Luke Bailey will be absolutely desperate to get past the McLaren to make sure he doesn't lose out any more points to his championship rival. Of course, he should have it done on podiums, who is saying. I'm sure Stephen as well, if he has kept it clean. Of course, he won't be able to find out that the McLaren has got a penalty, but he'll be desperate to keep it clean as well, because Drazier just 3 seconds behind him now, so it could cost him a position if he was careless and to pick one up. And Jeffrey from first to last, and is now found himself back onto 8th place, only a few tenths of a second behind the Mercedes GSP as well, so it's been a good recovery drive from him. Drazier from last place on the grid up into 6th, and for a man who didn't have it all his own way, I'm sure that'd be a good return. And we see Luke Bailey once again in the DRS bonus, a little bit closer this time, has a little bit of a bigger look into turn 1, but once again doesn't quite make it stick. Maybe he's aware he's got a penalty, the McLaren driver, so he doesn't want to make any that could potentially risk his race being ruined, as Jeffrey takes the Mercedes driver for P7.
Yeah, Jeffrey, a nice move down the inside of JSP there into turn 1, and he's got that move. He's up into P7 now. Like you say, it's a fairly good recovery drive from Jeffrey. He's had a couple of mistakes along the way, but another thing, down in P11 now, Simon Palmer has just pitted for a new front wing, so he must have made another mistake on his own and needed to come in for repairs, so he's looking like he's just going to go for fastest lap now.
And now just 3 laps left to go. Luke Bailey still pressing on the pressure on the McLaren driver, and I'm sure he's got worse tyres than the McLaren driver. I'm sure there's hard to saying they are pretty durable, so he won't be feeling it too much. And of course, Stevens done really well to keep up with these two, sort of around the phase of the race where you're expecting these medium tyre runners to drop off. I'm sure the safety car laps would have helped them with that, and of course the fuel going down makes these cars a lot easier to run. And see Brennan's just going a little bit wide out that last corner. Will that be a price to pay for into turn 1? Once again, he's got pretty good speed this time, and Luke Bailey going really deep on the brakes there, just about avoids the rear wing of the McLaren driver. And Craig has got it down to 1.5, so he's going to have to, if he can just pressure the Red Bull driver in a mistake, get DRS, who knows. But I'm sure Nitrogas as you're saying, just making sure he gets just keeping it clean at the moment. As JSP looks like he could potentially come back at Jeffrey as well. He's only a few tenths behind him, so he's kept with the racing points. And O'Stephen as well, just harrying and hustling the two Alfa Romeo drivers.
Yeah, Luke Bailey, he needs to get a bit brave down into turn 1 on the brakes. He's well, I know he doesn't really need to, as Brennans does have that penalty, but if he's not aware of it, he's you know, we want to see these guys pass each other on track. It's more entertaining, and I know it's not always the most sensible thing to do, but it would make a great spectacle for us if we were to make the move. So he's getting closer. He just needs to be brave down into turn 1 and get that move done. But it's looking like Brennans is actually going to pick DRS up here off Luke Bailey's own teammate. So that's going to null and void any advantage he would have this lap.
Yeah, I think inadvertently gifting an advantage to the McLaren driver there against his teammate. And interestingly, Nitrogas has made a mistake surely somewhere, or just had maybe a bit of a casual lap, because Craig is only 4 tenths of a second behind the Red Bull driver now, so it's going to be very difficult to pass, if anywhere, on this last lap. But it's just running out of laps, so maybe just running maybe a little bit too casually. But we are now on this last lap, and Brennans has held back that Luke Bailey. Stephen going massively wide, maybe a bit distracted by the lap car of Simon Palmer. Hasn't gone well for him in the race at all again tonight. And Kryptos as well, just a few tenths behind Tinnis, who's saying he could come back at these guys on medium tyres as they begin to wear. Looks like he is beginning to do that. Stephen looking also impatient behind Luke Bailey, looking desperate to get a move done. So as we say, Luke Bailey might well be patient behind the McLaren because he knows he's got a penalty. Stephen's probably... we know Luke Bailey hasn't got a penalty, so Stephen probably wanted to try and get this move done on track, but it looks like he's just made a couple of mistakes in that second sector, which could cost him that. And of course, Dragio now has caught up only a second behind the Williams of O'Stephen, so Brennans could drop another position as yet. But looks like it's going to be just about the perfect number of laps for Nitrogas. I'm sure Craig will be hoping there'll be 1 or 2 more laps. But as long as he's kept it clean, the Red Bull driver could be on for it's a real squirm on at the last corner. But he crosses the line, he takes the race win. Congratulations to the Red Bull driver. Brennans is going to take third place, but with penalties, drops him down to 5th place. Luke Bailey picks up the last podium place, so it only drops a couple of points to his championship rival. Stephen does a brilliant recovery up into P4. Of course, unfortunate to lose his teammate in the race, who was fighting for the win, but a nice result, round of points there for the Williams driver. Brennans, of course, crossed the line P3. Penalty of just a few laps to go cost him. Drops him down to P5. Jeffrey, a good recovery from first down to last, back to 6th. I'm sure he'd be happy with that. Dragio into P7, and from the back of the grid, and after a bit of a horror show for him, really, he was really unlucky. I've set a fabulous pole position in Brazil. I'm sure he'll be pleased to come from the back of the grid and to pick up some good points there. Just round up. To see a massive well done to Nitrogas. His teammate couldn't make it. I'm sure his teammate will get a massive grin on his face when he tunes into the stream and find that his teammate has won it. Of course, Red Bull only 20 points between him and the constructors this season, and now he's big 15 for the win of Nitrogas. That's a massive turnaround for the Red Bull team.
Yeah, that is a massive turnaround. It's a nice haul of points for them. They really needed it, obviously, with unfortunately Malc not being able to be here tonight. It's going to help them out in the constructors as well. But I believe that is now a 7th winner from 7 races, so this F3 League just continues to throw up unpredictable races yet again.
I know it is, and confirmation. It looked like he had it easy, but maybe just making sure he didn't get a penalty at all. Maybe just a little bit leisurely on that last couple of laps, and it did mean Craig was only just 2 tenths behind him. Maybe a lap or 2 more, he would have had a run at the Red Bull driver. Luke Bailey, I'm sure he'd be pleased. He came from 6th to 3rd. I'm sure he would have felt like he could have had a chance to gain a couple of points on his championship rival, but he gets on the podium. Stephen in P4, really nice race from him. Brennans to Hussein P5, unlucky a penalty dropped him down. Jeffrey, a good recovery in the end to P6. Dragio from the back of the grid to P7. JSP gets points. Tinnis and Kryptox round out the following point scoring positions, and Simon Palmer and Sir Spud there were at the back, and we lost obviously quite a few drivers. Potentially at turn 4, Charlie. That seems to be quite an action zone tonight.
Yeah, it
really caught out a lot of drivers.
Yeah, they were finding it a bit treacherous out there, a few of them, and unfortunately it caught our early race leader Gareth out, and Jeffrey was caught out early on in the last sector as well. So a few mistakes out there obviously helped the podium finishers out tonight, but You know, equally they deserve to be there. They kept it clean and they kept it on track. So, yeah, well deserved for all of our podium finishers, and I'm sure they'll be joining us shortly.
Yep, be interesting to hear from more of them. And of course, as you're saying about, we didn't want to jinx nitro gas at all because we've seen just, I think we had 3 different race leaders to eventually end up in the wall one way or another, and he did well. Of course, he was the first man to cross the line without making a mistake, and as you're saying, we all turned a fortune for the Red Bull team, and a really massive well done for him. So you're saying a 7th different winner out of 7, as say consistency is absolutely crucial, and it seems like we've got consistently unpredictability in this league right now. And Craig and Luke Bailey once again on the podium. Neither of them have won 2 races yet this season, but the fact they're now picking up constant podiums does show that they are getting their foothold in the league, and of course extending that advantage at the top of the championship. Again, it's looking more and more increasingly like a 2-horse race, with Simon Palmer dropping outside the points. He was currently sat in P3 in the championship, so it looks like, as we said, with just 5 races left to go, it looks like it will be between those 2 drivers. And I think our top 3 have now joined us, so if I just to remind you all to make sure your voice is allowed to be shared so we can hear you on the stream. I'll start of course with our race winner, Nitrogash. Congratulations. I can't remember, I'd love to know your thoughts on seeing, I think we had about 3 drivers who were initially leading the race making a mistake or whatever, but it seems like you was the first one to just not making a mistake, keeping it clean with very good pace was enough for the 15 points for you tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think I was going to win, and then it's like one after another. They just kept spinning off in front of me. I was like, oh God, just keep calm and carry on. But jeez, man.
Must have been a real shock. But what was your reaction? Of course, we saw I think it was Jeffrey at first, and then Gareth as well. But what was it? I suppose it must have been the third time. You must have got. What was your reaction when you saw Wojtek going off the road?
It's just like, yeah. I don't know. It never happens to me. People just, it's like, okay, everybody just wants to get out of the way and let me win one for a change. But yeah, I was delighted. But and then I got Craig coming up at the end. I was just, oh, no battery, no fuel. It's like, no.
But he's watching you come around the last corner, absolutely squirting the throttle, and two tenths. It was that. I'm sure you was glad there wasn't a lap more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it either got me if there was a lap more, I think. Well, I'm so glad to get down the straight at the beginning of the last lap just to get out of the DRS. I was like, get out of this DRS and just get around the rest of the lap.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I'll come back to you in just a bit. And,
cheers, thanks.
Craig, you're leading the Drivers' Championship. You come home from 9th up to 2nd. Did you think that was on at the start of the race?
No. No, just looking at the quality times going in, particularly Gareth, I think it was a 17.2 medium, just absolutely impressive. Knew I couldn't touch it, so I knew my best hope was to possibly get the undercut on the race. Unfortunately, I think the VSC came out about a lap before, so I was trying to tell Luke a dummy that I was staying out, but he came in, so pretty much tonight's focus was beating Luke. And just maintaining that gap. So unfortunately decided to pit at the same time as me, so I knew I had to get it done on track.
And so you mentioned your title rival there, Luke, and you two have got quite a buffer to third place. Third place coming into this evening was Simon. Of course, he doesn't finish inside the points. Is it very much now every race concentration on beating Luke?
Yes. Yes. It was pretty much that going into the break. That was always going to be my focus. I had a quick look at the tables, seeing that there was about a 20-point buffer, which is obviously increasing now. So the next few races are pretty much just focusing on Luke, but obviously don't be neglectful of the other drivers. Certainly Nitro popped up and certainly deserved the race win. So it's about keeping an eye on the other drivers as well, just in case they come round the outside. But most importantly, it's keeping an eye on Luke and just making sure that I continue to outscore him, if possible, that is.
Absolutely. Think about the long haul game and the points advantage, trying to keep it, because it is you've gained a couple of points in him, because I believe he's leading him just by 1 point, and now I've got a few on him, so at least you got that on you. So well done for you. Really nice race for you. Congratulations. And move on to third place, Luke. I believe you started P6, so again you made very good ground to get on the podium. I'm sure you wasn't perhaps expecting it, but are you? What's your thoughts on the race? Are you disappointed that you've lost a couple of points to Craig, or do you think that today was a good race to minimise the damage?
I think I've done pretty well there. I've been struggling for this track all week. I was quite happy just to have got 6th, to be quite honest, with the way it's been going. So to get 3rd somehow, I've no idea how I ended up there.
Because it was a really interesting race, and you seem to be following Craig for quite a lot of it, and it got past the McLaren. It looked like he had a couple little looks at the McLaren. Was you aware he had a penalty at the end, or was you all guns blazing trying to get past him?
Well, the first half were just a disaster. A couple of things went wrong. Had DRS problems again. Seems to be a weekly thing now with that Alpha. So yeah, just I had no straight line pace at all.
And lastly, of course, going to next circuit, which is Monza, of course. Only 3 points behind. Do you think Monza is a circuit you've been good at? I'm sure. Are you a bit like Craig? Are you? Is your main focus now only beating Craig, regardless if it's finishing 6th?
I suppose in a way, yeah. Like Craig said, I suppose you can't just neglect everybody else. There's a couple of drivers that have seemed to be showing some really good pace these last few races. So for the drivers, yeah, I suppose I've just got to focus on beating Craig, really.
Good stuff. Well, great race from all 3 of you. One last question to our race winner, Nitrogas. Of course, it's been a bit of an up and down season for the Red Bull team as a whole. I think you only had 20. I think it was only 20 constructors points you have all season. To start the second half of the season with 15 is fantastic. Do you think you can sort of make a bit of a habit of this, like picking up more points at podiums in the second half of the season?
I hope so. I mean, I prefer the tracks in the second half. Apart from this one, I hate this track, which is hilarious that I've won it because I really can't stand Hungary. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Monaco, everybody knows anything can happen there, but the other tracks I quite like. So hopefully, just a bit more consistent. I mean, to finally win an equal race, I've just looked. It was 57 races that I hadn't won a race. So I'm just chuffed with that for this season. But yeah, I'll just try and be a bit more consistent now.
Absolutely, consistency is key, and of course Luke Bailey and Craig have done that very, very well. But massive congratulations to all 3 of you. Feel free to leave whenever you. Well done. But of course we'll just wrap up here, Charlie. But as we were saying, with the 3 different race leaders in the race, Nitrogas seemed to be the one who managed to keep it on track the best.
Yeah, definitely. Just kept it clean. Pace was good. No penalties, and ultimately he's ended up with a win. So very well done to him. Fully deserved, and to the other 2 guys on the podium, great races as well, just to keep it clean and find your way through.
Absolutely, saying no penalty as well, so that's a real clean sweep there. And of course, if you enjoyed what you watched and you can't wait to see more action, we've got more action come Sunday on the Xbox League. That is for round 7, I believe, and that is on Twitch. You can find that at twitch.tv /Invictus Leagues. Monday nights, that is of course the F1 League, 8 PM Monday night. That is brought to you by Gareth and Sab. Realistic Performance, that's every Tuesday, 8 PM by Malc and Tim. The F2 League is running in parallel with us. That's Wednesdays, 8 PM. Dan and James bring you that. And of course, you can hit us up on the socials. We've got Instagram at Invictus Racing League, Facebook as well. You can find news, photo albums, interviews with drivers and all that, and of course Twitter at Invictus RL. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again in a week's time. Thank you very much.